Hello YouTube, this is Skinwalker, and I'll give you an update on my German kit that I'm putting together. Well, just recently someone just asked me, direct messaged me and asked me, what do you mean by preserving history? I mean, I thought most people are doing that right now. I mean, that's what we're basically learning in history. Well, I want to preserve history for the younger people because their sense of history basically just means that Pearl Harbor happened, World War. Well, let me give you a more fuller illustration of what World War II for the younger generation means. It basically means that Pearl Harbor began, America invaded Europe, and the Germans were defeated. That was it. That's basically their history class all rolled into one. I know it seems pathetic because how I was perceived of what history was is basically just examination of how everything happened, of how we got to this point of within our lifetime, of how this big, enormous, destructive tragedy happened. I mean, it's just more broader than that. I mean, I feel that World War II should just be its own subject when it comes down to the course of human history. And true, there are some instances within different classes and courses that can give you a broader explanation, but I believe it's definitely more bigger than just saying that Pearl Harbor happened, America invaded Europe, and the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were just little footprints that people just, you know, they should accept, you know. But for me, like I said, I'm a huge history buff. I believe that there's several instances where the mainstream media basically ignores these parts of history altogether. For example, to give you more context of what I mean when it comes down to the Germans in World War II is basically the fact that these guys were broke. These guys were depressed. I mean, these guys were far more in a worse position than America was in the Great Depression. Well, because, number one is the fact that the Versailles Treaty basically stole land away from the German Empire and basically gave it to Poles, the French, and hopefully I'm not mistaken, the new Czechoslovakia Republic, because the old Hungarian Empire basically broke apart, and they just needed, it's just one big flustercluck of who did what. Well, should this side receive more in contribution to the war, or should this side receive less? You know what I mean? But here, Germany wasn't the one who started World War I in the first place. It was basically the Austro-Hungarian Empire. So, go figure. I mean, that's how World War II. That's one of the reasons why World War II began, because I believe that a French general once said that this wasn't really a treaty. The Versailles Treaty wasn't really a treaty. It was more like an armistice that would last for 20 years. I mean, yeah, an armistice that would last for 20 years. Basically, he was correct. He was definitely correct. And secondly, this was like during the Great Depression as well, is that the German people were basically, aside from them being broke, is that they were too busy fighting. So sorry about that. Again, the German people were just basically fighting each other. I mean, you basically have reactionary politics that was happening. I mean, it was basically fighting between the arising National Socialist Party, aka the Nazis, and as well as the Communist Party, which was established by Rosa Luxemburg during the so-called Second Revolution in Germany. And once you have that happening, the communists blaming the Nazis and the Nazis blaming the communists. But for me, I really just blame I just blame the communists for thinking that their place in the Weimar Republic was just because, think of them as modern day Antifa. Antifa just beating up conservative groups all over Germany, basically. I mean, it's really pathetic, especially how low Germany sunk during the Versailles Treaty as well. I mean, basically disbanding all German wealth, all German pride, and all German sense of nationalism, basically making them feel like, yeah, I mean, you're just one of 1,000 of different the same Europeans. But here it was the German Empire who was basically holding off a two-front war, which is gravely impossible for any other nation to do alone, except for the United States. But again, I'm talking about what the course that led to Germany's rise of the Third Reich during World War I. The Versailles Treaty, as well as the reactionary politics between conservative groups and as well as the communist talking points during the Weimar Republic after the disbandment of the German Empire. That was the third reason. I mean, aside from the German people being stripped of all pride and as well as all sense of commitment towards to their own special sense of nationalism, they were broken. The German people were basically broken. I mean, they had especially during the time of the Great Depression, and I just feel that this wasn't their fault. I mean, all the Germans were basically asking themselves, why can't I buy bread for my family? Why is this happening? Why are French soldiers going through all of our cupboards just to steal coal from us? Why is this happening? Why did our sons die? Basically, I mean, that's how I feel when it comes down to the German people. And aside from reactionary politics of just both sides beating each other up as well, I really feel for them. I really do, because I've lived in poverty for a long time, and it was basically there were many instances where it's been my fault, but I'm basically in a far better position than I was a couple of years ago. But that's one of the small reasons. That's probably one of the reasons why I want to put this loadout together, because of the historical context. And I will give you more of my understanding of what happened during Germany during the rise of World War II. I mean, I believe that the mainstream media hasn't done a good job about, sharing about World War II history in general. I mean, they're basically just going off from what just happened instead of, well, they're basically going off of just he said, she said type of thing, type of ideas. But I think it's just more popular just to brand them the bad guy, basically, because that's what you do with propaganda. You basically dehumanize the enemy, and that's what basically happened during World War II. But again, I'll give you more historical context later in the future. So yeah, I'm still putting together I want to buy a blouse just to. Now don't think that it's feminine blouse. I mean, like the German field blouse. So I'll start from there, and we'll see. I'll give you guys a report later in the future. All right, guys, Skinwalker signing out.